Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 27 of Outside the Letterbox. I'm Paul Duda, and joining me today is Joe Campbell
Addy.
and Nick Van Lee
Hey
Show.
everyone.
Today, we're going to be discussing our favorites from last year, from 2014. We're going to discuss the recent Oscar nominations, what got snubbed, what were some surprises. And Joe, I almost read that note that you wrote. And then we're going to talk about what our most anticipated films are for next year, or this year, 2015. First you can find more episodes of Outside the Letterbox on our website, the-letterbox.com, as well as on our Facebook page, or follow us on Twitter. You can download our podcast from iTunes. And you should leave us a review or comment on our site if you like the podcast or if you disagree with us on anything that we're going to list today. But yeah, definitely check out our site and share the podcast with some of your friends and family. Even if they hate movies, just be like, listen to it, force them, sit them down, put headphones on their head, because we're that
Popcorn style.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Don't really do that. Okay, so yeah, let's just kick it off. We're each gonna pick out like three, just to kind of move things along. We're gonna pick out three of our favorite films from last year and talk about them. We're all gonna talk about different ones though, so try and keep it sort of different. Nick, your list is so boring.
They're all the same.
Boring.
I don't know. All right. Anyway, sorry. I don't know why I said that. Anyway, let's just get started. Joe, why don't you give the first one?
All right. I'm not gonna talk too long about these because I already kind of talked about these in my best of video. But yeah, Godzilla, one of my favorite movies of the year. Just kind of an ultimate giant monster movie. Really, I really enjoyed it. I don't think it's technically like the best movie of the year, but it's probably the one that I got the most enjoyment out of, and just like for me, it's the ultimate movie. I really love the scope of the monsters in that one.
Yeah.
Um,
I think we should each get a chance to comment on each other.
no.
But yeah, I was just gonna say like Godzilla meant to get an honorable mention on my favorites just because there's definitely some issues with it in terms of like the characters and everything, but just being able to see Godzilla like radioactive blast that other monster at the end, spoilers, was like one of the best moments in theaters this year, I think.
Yeah, yeah. For me, that's really what it came down to. Is just kind of, I think Godzilla had just kind of the best moments for me. Oddly enough, the funny thing is that I didn't like the director's other movie, Gareth Edwards, his other movie Monsters. For the same reasons that I actually really enjoyed Godzilla and Monsters, I was disappointed that they held back on the monsters so much and focused on the human drama. Whereas in this one, I felt like because they held back on the monsters, when they did show them, it paid off. But I know for some people that didn't work. But for me, I don't know, it worked well enough.
Yeah,
I've been meaning to go back to. I've been meaning to go back to Godzilla because, like the finale was worth seeing in a theater, but I remember not being as enamored with the rest of the movie as you apparently were. So I'm interested to see if my opinions changed at all since what it came out last May. So it's almost been a year.
Yeah. Yeah. Another one for me is The Raid 2. This one actually, we're going to be highlighting an upcoming episode of Film Illiterates in the next few weeks, actually, as a double feature of The Raid and The Raid 2. So I'll comment more on that in that video, probably coming out in the next 2-3 weeks. But suffice to say, it has some of the best action I've seen in the past few years. It's rare that you ever see an action movie that actually delivers on some really solid, well choreographed action and lets you see everything. You don't see that in a lot of American movies these days. I mean, sometimes you do every once in a while, but and that one is just, I don't know. It lives up to being a sequel to The Raid, which was good enough for me. It's very, very enjoyable, high octane, graphically violent, kick-ass movie.
I guess that's why they called it The Raid 2.
Exactly, because it's a sequel to The Raid. I didn't know that going in. I'm just kidding. I know it was whatever. And then finally, another one that I loved was Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. I'm a huge Planet of the Apes fan in general. Again, this one was on my top 10 list of this year, and it's really, I think, the Planet of the Apes movie that I was hoping Rise of the Planet of the Apes would be, and I love Rise of the Planet of the Apes, but this one, it really delivers on kind of the sci-fi aspect of it. Of, the apes are really evolving now, and they're making their own society. And I didn't mind the human drama in this one either. I heard a lot of people complaining that the humans were kind of boring in this one, but I found them more interesting than just kind of humans living in regular society, as you saw in Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Whereas now you really see them in this almost post-apocalyptic groups getting together and having, seeing who takes over, and kind of leads them against the revolt against the apes, and just kind of seeing how everything evolves. I love seeing people and apes kind of having bad apples among both of them. So you have like good people and bad people, or apes on each side. And I don't know. It was really, really interesting. Really well made. Surprisingly dramatic. So I
Dawn of the Planet of the Apes was definitely one of my favorites, and I think in terms of like summer blockbusters, I think it sort of surprisingly transcended that I guess stereotype or that genre of the summer blockbuster, specifically because of how it handled its characters and its story and themes. Because it totally did. It wasn't like from the trailers and then from what you hear and with all the politics going on right now, you'd almost expect it to be like, humans are horrible, go apes, like that's really what I expected from the movie, but it's so much more like nuanced than that in the film, and I really appreciated the movie for doing that, because it felt like a really honest story, even though it's about apes becoming humans pretty much.
Yeah, exactly.
It felt like a very honest story, and I it's funny because if you look at, people say the human characters aren't very good, but I think if you look at them as side characters, they're pretty fleshed out. So I thought it was great. It's definitely one of my favorites of the year.
Yeah, one of the things I really liked about this movie is how kind of like small it was. The event in and of itself is very important, kind of for things that'll happen later. But in the moment, it doesn't feel like the fate of the world. It really just feels like just a quarrel between these two small factions of humans and apes. And I kind of like that intimacy, especially in a big summer blockbuster, where the stakes are always like, oh, it's going to be the end of the world and whatever. And even though the end of it suggests that we're going to go into like full out war, the whole movie though, you don't feel like, oh, this is just like, this crazy end all be all, conflict. It's a very small kind of like shot heard around the world type of conflict.
Yeah, I think it was a great movie. So Nick, what is on your list? Your super duper boring list?
You have to explain that to me, because I don't know. You're gonna have to explain that comment to me, but I'll go off on my top.
I'll explain the comment to you real quick. Your list is pretty much like this year's Oscar nominations.
What does that mean?
That means it's just like, yeah, okay, whatever.
It's old white people movies.
It's like expected. That's what I mean.
Now I gotta look at
when you expected.
Expected for me or expected for other people?
It's just like expected. I don't know, man. It's like you're just a boring guy. Like
I haven't seen Noah on a lot of people's end of year lists.
No, not your end of year list. Just your three that you picked here.
Oh, that's right. I can't help that.
I think we should put Nick on the Academy so he can vote for the Oscar nominations, because he would fit right in.
Hey, Inherent Vice has black people in it, so I'm considered there.
Okay, so Nick, the first one on your list is Inherent Vice.
Oh, right? Yeah. I don't know if these three aren't really in any order. My whole list wasn't in order because it was too hard for me to rank, and these three kind of all affected me in different ways. So Inherent Vice, for me, was more, I guess, like the type of movie that felt like it was made for me. I love one of my favorite movies of all time is The Big Lebowski. I love film noir. I especially love like the era of film noir that kind of came out in the 1970s, things like The Long Goodbye and stuff. And that's really what Paul Thomas Anderson was going for here. I love just kind of the crazy Shaggy Dog detective story, all the crazy side characters, and it's kind of a movie where plot, not that plot doesn't matter, but it's not really the focus of the whole thing. And so kind of just like every scene is like, oh, who's the next big character we're going to, bump into? What's the next big gag, or what's the next big, whatever. But at the same time, I think there's a lot more to the movie, and I've seen it twice now, and every time I've seen it, new things kind of become clearer, and there's more levels to it that I'm seeing, or it's every time I've rewatched it, even though it's a funny movie, it's kind of gotten sadder each time I've watched it, because there's a very kind of melancholic end of an era look at kind of like how the 1960s were just a bunch of like empty promises, and kind of how that all kind of culminated in the 70s being this real paranoid era. So I really dug it, mostly because it kind of just included a bunch of the things that when I go to a movie I love to see. So that's one of my top 3 right there. I don't think none of you guys have had a chance to see it yet, though, right?
No, yeah, that's right. I've been meaning to get to this one, actually. This is probably the biggest one from last year that I've been really wanting to go see. I've seen that trailer so many damn times, it's crazy, but it's got that song stuck in my head, and I don't know. It looks like the sort of movie that I really love. Just kind of the whole 70s vibe, and the style of the movie, and the I don't want to say dark humor, but just kind of like the non-humor, or whatever it is. I don't know. Looks like it's very dry sense of humor.
A lot of different types of humor.
Really looking forward to seeing it. It's my most anticipated movie of 2014.
Still.
Okay.
So then next, my other choice is going to be Whiplash. Whiplash was a movie that I think it came out at last year's Sundance Film Festival, and I think it won whatever the top prize is there. And I remember being like, oh, this movie sounds interesting and whatever. And then, a couple months later, trailer came out, and being like, okay, this seems like an interesting movie. I love jazz music, so I'm always interested in movies that kind of tackle that subject matter. But the experience of seeing it in the theater was probably one of my favorites of last year. There were a lot of summer blockbusters and whatever, but none of them had me on the edge of my seat like the third act of Whiplash did. It's just kind of one of those movies that, once it starts, it never really stops, kind of grabs you by the throat and doesn't let go. J.K. Simmons is awesome. I don't think, I think that's kind of an established fact at this point. So yeah, love the music, love the performance, and I really love the way it's put together. It's a really tight, small little movie. So yeah, that's Whiplash.
Yeah, I loved Whiplash. I thought the only thing that kept it off my list actually was just that Nick, you had already highlighted it, and I know it's on a ton of other people's lists, so I just figured I'd pick something else that I really liked. But I thought Whiplash was easily one of the best movies I saw this past year. Just like you said, Nick, just really tight. I love that it didn't there wasn't anything that felt lengthy about it at all. It just sort of got to the point. You got to know the characters. It threw some crazy stuff at you. And I remember seeing this because Alex had told me that told Jamie, my fiance, that it's a bloody film, more bloody than you'd expect. So I was watching the whole movie, waiting for something. And it was kind of bloody, but it wasn't bloody in the way that it had been described.
Impaled by drumsticks.
Yes.
Well, the guy who, well, it's funny because it's produced by Jason Blum, who produces the Paranormal Activity movies, the Insidious movies, and it's directed and written by the guy who wrote, I think it's Grand Piano, and then The Last Exorcism Part 2. So,
but didn't the guy who wrote Grand Piano also direct this?
Yeah.
So did you guys watch Grand Piano? Because you totally once you find out that he made the same movie or whatever, it totally makes sense. If you've seen Grand Piano.
No, I haven't yet.
But Whiplash is just a way better movie. Not that Grand Piano is bad, but Whiplash is just much better.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a really solid movie.
Really intense movie.
But it's produced under Jason. You said Jason Blum, but not.
Yeah,
it's not a Blumhouse production, though, is it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure their title comes up at the beginning of the movie.
Really?
Yeah, he's one of the Oscar-nominated producers of the movie.
Yeah, but that doesn't. I mean, that I think
his company. You mean?
What?
You mean his company though?
Yeah, exactly. Because I feel like it wasn't produced under his company. That he might have been a producer on it, but
I'm pretty sure that their title was at the beginning of the movie, but I could be wrong.
You know what? I just realized I missed the opening, like the first 5 seconds of the movie, so I probably missed it. That probably would have caught me off guard. That's probably why I am surprised if it was.
Yeah, it's listed on their page.
It's like a horror. It's clearly like horror film opening. So
yeah,
anyway.
I think they edited it, so they didn't have that emphasis.
Cool. All right.
Awesome.
Anything else?
See Whiplash. That's the last time to say that. Okay, so my third option is one that's seems to be receiving some type of backlash recently, but I'm gonna go with it anyway. Is Boyhood, and this movie just kind of has my heart. I saw it when it first came out. It's almost 3 hours long. Did not feel that long. I could have kept watching if it had kept going. It's probably just the movie I had the biggest emotional connection to. I'm kind of a few years removed from the main character in the movie, so it wasn't it wasn't an exact like, oh my gosh, this is what happened to me or whatever. But it was I think there were certain times where you're watching the movie and you can kind of be like, oh, I remember that experience, or I remember that time period or whatever, and it was just kind of an experience that I haven't had for a single film. There's a lot of talk about like Harry Potter kind of did a similar thing, or Francois Truffaut did a similar thing, or a bunch of other people. But this was the first time where kind of in one sitting, in one theater, you were able to kind of jam pack all these emotions and experiences.
Not if you watch all 8 Harry Potter movies at once, Nick.
But it's still not the same because you have it's not concise. It's not in an actual one film format. So yeah, I mean I love this movie.
I think this movie is gonna end up. I think Richard Linklater made this movie with all the right ideas and intentions, but I think it's gonna end up being remembered the same way. I really do think it's gonna end up being remembered the same way the artist is remembered, because it's kind of it's not. I don't think it's a very good movie. I think the 12 years thing, while cool, and while I don't think Richard Linklater made it to be this way, is very gimmicky.
Yeah, I mean it's
like Oscar bait gimmicky.
That's a really long con for an Oscar bait movie, but
that's what I mean. Is I think he made it I don't think he made it to be a gimmick. But I'm saying it's turned out that it's a gimmick that's getting him into the Oscars. That's what I mean.
Yeah. No, I think he made it this thing where it's like, oh, I'm just going to do this cool side project, and then it, caught on. I think this is the movie. I mean, we can get about this later when we talk about Oscars, but I think this is just the movie where, I don't think it's Oscar bait. I just think a lot of people just like it, and I think that's why it got pushed ahead. But
I disagree. I think a lot of it is just that, oh, he made it over 12 years. He it deserves it. And I don't think the movie is that good. It's good, but it's not that good. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, it's the sort of movie where I think it deserves to be remembered as an interesting film experiment. And I think that it should be put in the history books as oh, this is a thing that happened. You should check this out. I think film students in the future should watch this movie just to see oh, this is what happened when they tried doing this. I'm not, as you guys know, though, I'm not a fan of this movie at all.
Well, thanks, guys.
No, Nick, I totally get why you like it, and I honestly, the kid's pretty much I think he's right in between me and you in terms of age, I think.
Well, he's younger than me.
Oh, he's younger than you. Okay.
Yeah,
so he is between.
They finished shooting the movie last year.
Right. Well, either way, a lot of the stuff in this movie I totally related to and I thought was great. really what just got me was that there wasn't like a thorough line story going on. It was just this kid, which is a very Linklater thing to do, but it's the same reason why I don't know, like, while I really enjoy Dazed and Confused, I don't think it deserves a Best Picture nomination, because it's not really, it's more just like an experience, not really like a story. And that's, that's, whether that makes a good movie or not, that's a totally different conversation, but I think there are other movies that did more impressive things. And then the second thing that gets me is just people talk about how great the kids' acting was, both of them, and I just did not buy that. Like, most of the time I was like, this is like first two Harry Potter movies level of acting to me. Like, that's what it felt like almost the whole time. So that's, I could just be totally off on that, but that's just how I felt watching the movie. So those are the two things. But I think it's a good movie. I just think the primary reason it's being recognized is because of the 12 years thing, which is impressive. But
I think, and that's probably why it'll win, a couple of the Oscars. But I mean, it's. Again, it's a conversation for another thing, but I don't know. We can talk about it later. I mean, we've probably already talked about it more than needs to be right now. But I love this movie. I'll keep loving it, even if it wins Oscars or doesn't win Oscars. So, screw you guys.
All right, so that leaves me, and my favorites of the year. You can check out Nick's whole list on our website. You can also check out my whole list on our website. But the three that I'm going to mention here, the first one I'm going to mention, I think I don't know why this movie has stuck with me like it has, but Mr. Peabody and Sherman was probably my favorite animated movie of the year. Which they weren't. It's funny because Lego Movie. We're going to talk about this in Snubs, so I won't talk about the Lego Movie yet. But I love the Lego Movie too. But Mr. Peabody and Sherman, for some reason, just like really caught me, and not because it's not even that great of a movie. Like there's a lot of flaws and issues with it, but for some reason I just laughed way more and had more fun watching that movie than I did any other animated movie. So yeah, there's Mr. Peabody and Sherman. Joe, I know you didn't like that one that much.
It just I don't know. To be perfectly honest, I don't really have very many big complaints with it. I just kind of watched it like, oh yeah, that was just another forgettable animated movie. I think it's because like you were talking about before though. I didn't really grow up with Looney Tunes, to be perfectly honest. So that kind of slapstick just, I don't know, it just didn't click with me. Whereas something like the Lego Movie is really more nostalgic for me.
Yeah. And there's just something about the puns and the human Mr. Peabody and Sherman that I really dug, and just had a lot of fun watching. So one of the main reasons I put it on my list is just because I don't think a lot of people saw it, and I think way more people would enjoy that than they think, especially since it came and went without really any sort of note, except for the fact that it's one of the only movies in the past decade to go from number 2 or 3 in its first weekend to number 1 in its second, which is I think kind of cool. But I just think more people should see it. So I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. But the second one I'm going to mention is Gone Girl, which we talked. Or actually, I don't know if I was here. No, I wasn't here for that podcast, which I should have been. Because you guys called it well-made trash, which I think is a total I think 50 Shades of Grey is gonna end up being well-made trash. Gone Girl was much more nuanced and had some things to say about relationships and life and marriage.
You can still do that and be well-made trash.
What's that?
I said it can still do that and be well-made trash.
No, that's not. You guys say well-made trash, but that's not what people aren't gonna think that it's has anything to say if you just call it well-made trash. That's just gonna mean oh, it looks nice, but it's How to Train Your Dragon. The girl with the dragon tattoo is more accurately well-made trash than Gone Girl is. That's like that would have been a better description for the girl with the dragon tattoo than I think Gone Girl. Because Gone Girl, like Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, is a fairly like standard, almost like procedural with some like thrilling aspects of it. Whereas Gone Girl is like it starts out as kind of this whodunit, like you said, like sort of trashy novel type thing, and then halfway through sort of throws you for a loop and starts doing things that I don't think any other story or movie like that has ever done, which is, I think, makes it more than just well-made trash. I agree that there are trashy parts about it, and that's kind of like the genre of the novel sort of goes with that, but I don't think the movie as a whole is just well-made trash. So I think it's a lot better than you guys gave it credit for on the podcast. Nick, I know you said you liked it, but I still think in that podcast it doesn't sound like you liked it.
I'm just saying is like I googled Gone Girl well-made trash and I found a bunch of reviews that gave it that title but are still positive reviews.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I disagree with those reviews. Then I don't think that's an accurate way to describe it at all. And by the podcast, that's not even. I'm saying like listening to the podcast, that doesn't sound like what you guys are saying. Because I think Joe dominated that podcast and didn't like the movie. So, but
I just feel very passionate about disliking that movie.
Regardless, like it's definitely not a movie for everyone. There's a lot of stuff in it that's there's a reason it's rated R. But Joe, like I don't know, man. The Raid 2 is trashy. Then I don't know what to say. Like, there's so many movies with so much trash in them. Like, if we just called every movie that had a sex scene trashy, like I don't know what to say.
Well, no. I mean, that's not it. It's just kind of, I don't know, that stuff with kind of the voiceover narrative form and the characters' motivations and kind of the love triangle stuff going on. I don't know. It just felt very, very dinosaur novel-ish to me. But it's very, very well made, though.
Anyway, check it out if you're interested. And my last movie that I'm going to mention that I don't think anyone else has seen is St. Vincent, which is the one with Bill Murray and Melissa McCarthy. And the reason this sort of topped my list is because it's a movie that, again, like stuck with me and one that is like really high on my list of movies last year that I want to revisit. Because it really kind of just like touched me and made me, it was just a really nice movie. Bill Murray's hilarious in it, and the kid opposite him is great too. Like the whole cast is pretty solid. There's great funny moments and there's great emotional beats too. And some people have said it's kind of manipulative, and I probably agree with that. But I guess in the end, I just didn't care. So
I'm looking forward to it. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, Nick, I actually think you'd really like it, Nick. Joe, I don't know about you.
Yeah, I don't know. I like Bill Murray. He's funny.
And then there's a couple movies I just wanted to mention real quick as honorable mentions. And I think we all liked these movies, maybe at different levels. But the first one is Edge of Tomorrow. And I'm highlighting these movies because I think like people will enjoy them or get something out of them, and they aren't being highlighted enough. But the Edge of Tomorrow is a great one. I think we all loved that. I think, Nick, it was on your top 10 list. Joe, was it on?
Yep.
It wasn't on my top 10 list, but it got honorable mention for me.
Yeah, it's just a great, fun, like, action sci-fi movie. Definitely check it out. I wanted to mention this one because everybody talks about Guardians of the Galaxy and Captain America, and I feel like everyone forgot that X-Men Days of Future Past came out, and I really loved that movie. I thought it sort of was a revamping and sort of vitalizing of the X-Men franchise in a way that while the Wolverine was good, I don't think the Wolverine by itself could do that, So definitely if you like X-Men, definitely check that one out. And then the last one which we mentioned a minute ago was Noah, which I know Nick and I both like. Joe, I don't remember.
Yeah.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah, I loved it too. I I'd probably say it's a better. I mean, comparing it to Exodus, I enjoyed them both, but no, it's a much better movie than Exodus.
Yes.
Yeah. So, were there any others you guys want to mention?
We'll probably talk about it later, but I know you were trying to highlight movies people hadn't talked about, but Grand Budapest Hotel I think was on all of our lists, or maybe not Joe's.
It was on mine. It was like towards near the top of mine.
Gotcha. Looking over kind of my big list of like 30 movies that I had to narrow down to, I really liked Calvary, which is a dark. It's called a dark comedy, but it's probably like the definition of a really, really, really dark comedy. It's about a priest in Ireland, played by Brendan Gleeson, who hears a guy's confession and is told he's going to kill him in 7 days because of the abuses in the church and stuff. And I don't know, it's really just an interesting movie because it's a week in this priest's life, but every day it's kind of him going to these different parishioners that he has and kind of just showing how flawed and messed up everyone is, while still being one of the best portrayals of a priest on film that I remember this past year. It's not a film that is, comes out and condemns people of faith, but it's a movie I think that challenges people. So I think that's a really good movie that a lot of people should seek out. But then, again, it is a really not that there's stuff that's shown, but there's a lot of really frank and open dialogue in the movie that might put some people off.
That's actually, that movie got mentioned by some of my friends who I have a friend who's in the who's in the seminary right now, and he mentioned it as being like one of the best movies he's seen in a long time. So and then I have another friend who won't stop talking about it and is trying to get me to watch it. So
yeah, it's really good.
I just haven't had a chance to watch it. So cool. Joe, did you have any you wanted to mention?
Not really off the top of my head. I mean, like the only ones we talked about so far.
Okay, cool. Well, then let's move on to Oscar nominations. So, guys, what were there any? Let's talk about snubs first. What were some of the big snubs this year that you noticed or thought maybe somebody should have been nominated that wasn't?
I think the general consensus among us, anyway, is going to be the Lego Movie.
Well, at least among us two, I'm not sure about Paul.
The only reason I could see. Do you guys hear that? Is there a weird echo?
Not much of one. I mean, like a little bit, but barely noticeable.
Okay. The only reason I can think of why the Lego Movie wouldn't get nominated is because it's almost not. I thought, like, when I heard it wasn't nominated, I was like, oh, maybe people didn't think of it as an animated movie.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering too. Like, if the animation style put people off, because even though it's CG, it kind of has the stop motion effect.
But then it also implies that it's taking place in a live action world by the end.
People have theorized about that, if whether the live action elements disqualified it, but that's not the case. You're allowed like a certain proportion.
But I don't mean that it disqualified it. I wonder if just voters were like, oh, I don't know if that was an animated movie, and then just didn't go for it.
Which is really which is sadly the fact that we consider that a legitimate possibility doesn't bode well of our opinion of the people in the Academy.
Oh, that's true, but I don't know. I feel like that's very possible. But yeah, that's the big one. One that I personally want to mention was the snub, and I honestly haven't seen American Sniper yet or Foxcatcher or anything, but for oh man, I just had his name up and now I'm not gonna be able to. I'm gonna pronounce it horribly wrong. But for some, people are talking about it getting snubbed, but it got the best. It got the Best Picture nomination, but like, if you've seen the movie, David, this is the name I was trying to look up. David Oyelowo. Anyone know how to say that? Oyelowo. His performance in it, I thought, was just like so great. So impressive, and the whole time I was watching the movie, I thought I didn't once think I wasn't watching Martin Luther King. You know, like that's just how I felt during the movie. I didn't once think, oh, this is an actor. You know.
Yeah, especially because I saw an interview with him last night, and it was funny because I've seen so much footage of him in Selma that I forgot that he's British. So it was just kind of this big like, oh, like he really is different from that performance. Selma in general, because it's only nominated for 2 Oscars, Best Song and Best Picture, and it's like, you know, if you go off that, it's like how do you justify the Best Picture nomination if its only other nomination is Best Song, you know?
Yeah, and that song to me was the worst part of the movie, so I don't know why. I don't know why it got nominated, which to me is fine because it's part of the credits, it's not really part of the movie, so I'm fine with that being the worst part of the movie. But yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, and it kind of raises a bigger question about the Oscars, which a lot of people are like, oh, the reason it didn't get all these nominations is because it came out too late, and you know they didn't get screeners out and whatever. And one, that's kind of my big problem with end of the year stuff, which is that like if you want stuff to be on people's list and whatever, like it has to come out like beginning of December or before December. And then at the same time, like, you know, even though Grand Budapest doesn't fall under this category really, but like then there's the adverse thing where it's like, oh, it has to come out after the beginning of the year, like you know, like all these movies have to come out in a certain time frame, and it's like, well, that's ridiculous, you know, because then it's not, you know, what the best movies are, it's what the best, you know, movies that we're throwing in these people's faces are, and at the same time, the fact that like, oh, screeners weren't out there, but the movie was in theaters is like, I know these people are probably busy, but at the same time, it's like, man, you know, most of these people are probably not watching these movies in a theater, they're probably just waiting for their, you know, screeners to show up and then just deciding based on that. And it's kind of, you know, it's kind of disappointing, but that's just the way it works, I guess.
Yeah, it just kind of stinks. I think of the movies that are nominated this year that I've seen so far, like I think that to me is the biggest snub in terms of acting, because I think that David Oyelowo and Carmen, I cannot pronounce these names for the life of me. Carmen did, like, they had the most impressive performances to me of the year. Something I did want to so I want to get your guys' opinion. What's your pick for Best Picture this year? Like, well, if you could decide which one would win, which would you pick, and then which one do you think's gonna win?
Oh, do we want to do that now, or do we want to wait until we get closer and we do a podcast on that?
Oh, okay, yeah, we can wait. Yeah. Sure. That's totally fine.
Gotta milk that podcast potential.
Yeah, exactly. One thing I did want to mention, I saw Birdman last night, actually, and I really dug it. I really liked it. The performances were awesome. It was way more entertaining than I thought it was going to be.
Yes, that's the big thing I got out of the movie too.
Like, so many people have said, like, I heard somebody, because didn't he get nominated for, like, did he get nominated for Best Comedy Movie or something like that?
The Golden Globes, yeah.
Yeah. And someone was like, oh, I didn't realize Birdman was a comedy on this other podcast I listened to, and then everybody laughed on it. And now seeing the movie, I'm like, I don't know, like, it was pretty, like, it was a kind of a dark comedy for sure, but definitely funny, you know?
Yeah.
It's an offbeat comedy.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought that the style might get kind of grating after a while, but I thought, because it's all, like, supposed to be one shot, I thought that might be, like, almost a detriment to the story, but I really liked all of it, man. Like, I really enjoyed the movie. I thought Emma Stone was awesome, and I totally think she deserves that Best Supporting Actress nomination. I haven't seen all the movies that are nominated, but if Meryl Streep wins this year, I'm going to be ticked.
Into the Woods for Best Picture.
Like, even like Patricia Arquette did an awesome job in Boyhood, you know, like she killed in that movie, and like, there's just so many other actresses that I think could deserve it this year. And I haven't seen Wild yet, but I know at least Emma Stone and Patricia Arquette, I think, killed it in their role. So, anyway, I just wanted to mention that I saw Birdman, and I really liked it. I don't think I would have put it on my top 10 list, because I don't know that it was that enjoyable, but it's definitely a really interesting, layered movie. But I just wanted to mention that real quick. So are there any other like snubs or surprises that you guys wanted to mention?
Yeah, well, for me, it's just kind of like I don't know. I'm very underwhelmed about the Oscars this year. I feel like I say that every year, but this year, I think more than usual. I'm just kind of looking over the list. I'm like, oh yeah, those are all movies that I enjoyed and came out, but I don't like not very many of them stand out to me, to be perfectly honest. I mean, like for instance, Birdman. I enjoyed Birdman. It's fine. It didn't make my top 10 list, and I like things about it.
Joe's just like looking at the list, like, oh yeah, those are movies that exist.
Yeah, exactly. Those movies that exist. Oh, Grand Budapest Hotel. I love that one. That was a great one. I haven't seen Theory of Everything or Imitation Game.
That's actually one that was a pleasant surprise for me, the Grand Budapest Hotel, because I thought everyone would have forgotten February last year.
Yeah.
So the fact that it got nominated for Best Picture and a bunch of other stuff is, I don't know. I thought that was awesome. I was stoked. Although I think Vine's got stuff.
That's something I have a question about, is the Grand Budapest Hotel, because I love the Grand Budapest. It's actually funny, as I think we talked about this earlier, but it's the kind of the problem with Wes Anderson making so many great movies that when I say it's like mid-level Wes Anderson, that's better than a lot of other people. But I just think it's interesting that this is the movie that like the Academy latches onto for him, because in the past he's only been nominated for, I think, Oscar screenplays. I think for Royal Tenenbaums, Moonrise Kingdom, and then I think animated feature for Fantastic Mr. Fox. So I just think it's interesting that this is the Wes Anderson movie that everyone all of a sudden gets. Like, they understand him with this one.
Yeah. One of the categories that I'm really having a tough time with is honestly a lot of the actors and actresses categories, because like other than just kind of J.K. Simmons, Whiplash, like most of these I'm like, oh yeah, again, like those are good performances, but nothing really stands out to me. Maybe it's because I haven't seen Foxcatcher or The Imitation Game or Theory of Everything, those movies yet. Or there we go, Rosamund Pike for Gone Girl. I had problems with Gone Girl, but I do think her performance was fantastic in that movie. But just kind of like I don't know, looking through all of these, it just nothing really stands out to me.
I kind of agree with Joe, and maybe that's just because there were a lot of really good performances this year. But but there is one nomination that I'm wondering, like Robert Duvall for The Judge. Did anyone see The Judge?
Nobody saw The Judge.
Well, wait, Nick, did you see it?
No.
I love Robert Duvall. Like, there's so many great movies that he's been in. But I'm wondering, like, is that a nomination because he might die soon or something? Like,
he is now the oldest acting nominee in history.
I mean, that's pretty awesome, but like I still don't nobody talked about the performances in that movie. Everyone just was like, it's whatever, and then nobody saw it.
Yeah.
So that just seems like a super random nomination in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. And also, like, J.K. Simmons was great. He was awesome in Whiplash, but he's also like he plays kind of that character in like everything.
I don't think so. I mean, I guess
that's pretty much without being a neo-Nazi and gay.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the same character he plays in Oz.
I guess. Yeah.
I want to see him play that character as J. Jonah Jameson in Spider-Man.
But, like, that's the thing. It's just, I don't know. Anyway, I guess you're right. Like, it's way more nuanced than something like that. But I don't know. I thought he was great. I feel like everyone said, "Oh, he's so awesome." Like, I was almost expecting something more like subtle from him.
Subtle is not what he is in that movie.
Yeah, exactly.
One last snub I want to talk about also, which I don't think I've heard anybody talk about. Maybe it's just me, but Birdman for Best Original Score. I don't know, that just it just had a really interesting kind of unique score. So I was kind of surprised to see it wasn't.
Okay,
Wasn't
it got
on there.
disqualified.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, there was a little controversy about that.
Really? I haven't heard this yet.
Oh shoot, you're right. It's not on the list.
Yeah. Why?
Huh.
Why was it disqualified?
I don't remember the details, but I think it was something. I mean, we had this conversation online yesterday about what makes up an original score and what doesn't, and I think it might have been the inclusion of some classical pieces or something.
Really? In Birdman?
Yeah, during like the flying sequences and stuff.
Oh yeah, I guess you're right. But this is like, I don't know. It felt like there's enough of their original kind of like the drums going and that kind of stuff to hold it. That's the stuff you remember. But
It's actually, there were so many parts in that movie where I got so tense because I felt like something really horrible was like about to just, because you're on his face pretty much the whole time. Like when he jumps off the building and like starts flying, I was just expecting at any second for his face to just like smack against the ground or something. Just like something super violent. And it didn't really happen, but I was still like, anyway, sorry, that's totally off topic. But, all right, so moving on to our next section, which is our most anticipated for the year, which is Star Wars.
Yes.
all right, all done.
All right, we'll talk to you guys next week. No. No, but Nick, you were before we got cut off, you were just talking about how excited you were for Star Wars and that there isn't really much to say because it's Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean, it's Star Wars and we don't know a lot.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's, you pretty much you can say I'm really excited for it, and that's it. You can say, at least with certainty.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on. Our list is all over the place. Like, there's nothing. It's not listed in like what release dates come out first. We just wrote a bunch of movies that we're excited for. So we're just gonna go down this sort of crazy list. And mine is one of mine is Peanuts, the Peanuts movie. Which when I originally heard that it was gonna be made, I was like, oh, this is gonna be crap. It's gonna be like like Alvin and the Chipmunks or something stupid like that. But the first trailer sort of, I think, wowed everybody with the animation style, and the preservation sort of that Charles Schultz, like holiday special style. And I don't know. I think it's gonna be a great animated movie.
Yeah, I think it was one of those things where, I still kind of wish it wasn't CG, but I think the style of it is close enough that I'm okay with it. It seems like they've kept the spirit of it while still trying to do something new.
Yeah, what's made me really happy is the as opposed to the Paddington trailer, the lack of juvenile kind of potty humor. Although from all accounts, Paddington is a fantastic movie from what I've heard, but it didn't give that impression from the trailer. Whereas with Peanuts, at least from the trailers, I'm getting really good vibes. I love the animation style. Yeah. Yeah,
totally. So that's one. Next one I'm going to mention again because it's mine. It's one of my most anticipated, is Pan, which is directed by one of my favorite modern directors, Joe Wright, who did Anna Karenina and Pride and Prejudice and Hannah, and now he's directing this Peter Pan prequel, which looks sort of crazy, but probably like something that I'm just gonna totally love. That first trailer, I probably watched that trailer like 100 times, because I love Peter Pan. I love the story and I love Joe Wright's direction, so I'm just stoked to see it. I don't know how you guys feel about it. Probably not as excited as I am.
I'm not super excited for it, but looking forward to it. If nothing else, for crazy Hugh Jackman looks awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested to see the trailer. I think I need to see more, but I'm definitely intrigued by it at this point.
Yeah. Next is Jupiter Ascending, which has been delayed twice now, but I think we're still kind of interested in seeing. In fact, as they've postponed it, I've gotten more interested in seeing it.
Really? I feel like I was interested in seeing it 2 years ago when the first trailer came out or whatever, And then like since they've been putting it off, I'm kind of like, oh yeah, that new sci-fi movie's coming out by the Wachowskis. All right, I'm still looking forward to it. I've convinced myself.
Yes, yeah, I think the most recent trailer was more impressive to me than the other ones. And I want to see, like, it sounds crazy. There's like a half bee man. Sean Bean plays like a bee human hybrid. And someone else plays like a deer human hybrid. I don't know what the heck is going on in this movie, but the trailers intrigued me, and as I want to see Eddie Redmayne like chew up the scenery around him, playing that villain. So
when his get nominated for his next Oscar for next year.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, the most intriguing thing to me about this movie, honestly, is some little touches in the trailers, because like they've had like all these aliens and these huge sci-fi landscapes and that kind of stuff, but then they throw in stuff like crop circles or what looks to be like modern day cities on Earth and that kind of stuff. And that kind of stuff thrown in there just really makes me interested in like, oh, what kind of movie is this actually with all the sci-fi stuff thrown in?
Yeah.
I hope it's really good, because I've heard the Wachowskis, like, none of their movies have really done good outside of the Matrix movies, but they keep getting to make movies because they have a good relationship with Warner Brothers and all that good stuff. But I really want this movie to succeed, because the rumor I keep hearing is that depending on how many more flops the Wachowskis have, they might have to resort to doing more Matrix stuff. And I don't want more Matrix stuff. So I like the Wachowskis. Like, whether you like each of their movies or not, I like that they're out there and they're doing their kind of weird thing. And most of the time, it's been enjoyable to me on some level. So I would rather they keep doing what they're doing as opposed to having to go back to, their hits just because people don't like their movies or don't go to see them.
Yeah, but see, I'd almost rather see them do something within the constraints of a budget.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like I know what you mean, and I don't want to see them make more Matrix stuff, but I'd love to see them make like a $40 million like sci-fi film as opposed to a $200 million sci-fi film.
Yeah.
Hannah by the Wachowskis.
Yeah, I don't know.
That actually would be kind of cool.
Yeah, just something more independent, I guess. But yeah, I think we're just interested to see how this one shapes up. And how it does. I think how it does financially will be interesting too. Next is Kingsman: The Secret Service, which Nick has already seen.
I have. It's really entertaining. So,
is it your most anticipated movie of the year, Nick?
Well, not anymore. It probably would have been, before. Yeah. I mean, I'll say right now, there's a good chance it could end up in like an Edge of Tomorrow kind of spot on my list, but there's also so much other awesome stuff that it wouldn't surprise me if it doesn't make it on my list for the end of the year. But it's really entertaining, and I think you guys will enjoy it. So,
sweet. Who wants to introduce the next one?
Avengers: Age of Ultron.
Woo.
It's Avengers: Age of Ultron.
More Marvel stuff. What I will say about these trailers is I do think like it looks like Joss Whedon is no longer making TV shows from the trailers. Like, I think the Avengers in a lot of ways still looked a lot like a TV show. There were things about that looked really cheap, and this looks really cinematic. So I think we're looking forward to it. It looks like it could be pretty awesome. It definitely looks like it's getting darker, which I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's going to be a good thing or a bad thing.
I'm interested. I'm interested because it seems like this is going to be the last time we're going to. I mean, I know there's a Captain America movie and Iron Man will be in that, and there's a Thor movie and whatever. But it seems like this movie will really kind of fraction all these characters that we've gotten used to seeing, especially because Phase 3 seems like it's so filled with a lot of newer characters. So I'm really interested to see kind of how. I'm more interested to see how it ends than how the rest of it plays out. At this point.
Yeah. I mean, as far as everyone talking about this one going darker, I think it just looks like it's going darker in the fact that the tone is more not nihilistic, but just kind of like more like dark, like, oh my gosh, they're all gonna get killed or something like that. But I'm like, it's dark for a Marvel movie. It's not necessarily a dark movie. It looks awesome though. I'm looking forward to it. That newest trailer didn't really offer anything new, but the movie looks great.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm.
holding a lot back.
What's that?
I've heard they're holding a lot back. Just going off Joe's comment about how the new trailer didn't show much. Like, it seems like they're really emphasizing the Hulk versus Iron Man fight, and I hear that's like it's a big thing, but like apparently the whole third act of the movie hasn't even been glimpsed at in the trailer.
Which is great.
I always love it when they do that. So
yeah.
The one they must be holding back because they haven't even introduced some of the characters in the trailer yet. Like, we haven't even gotten a glimpse of the Vision yet or anything like that, and apparently he plays a pretty big part. So
there are so many characters in this movie, guys.
Yeah, I'm actually a little scared of that, but we'll see. Anyway, I think we should move along to this. After the first trailer came out for this, and then I listened to some people who saw like some preview footage at Comic-Con, I guess. This is shot to pretty high on my list of anticipated movies. Tomorrowland, Disney's Tomorrowland.
Yeah.
I feel like this could be it. I feel like very much this could be like the Pirates of the Caribbean of 2015, where it's an adaptation of like a Disney, not even a ride anymore, but just an area. But the trailer looked pretty cool. I dug sort of what they were doing with the transitions from Tomorrowland back to the real world, and and then hearing about the Comic-Con footage, it just sounds awesome to me. So I'm really stoked for this one. This one's really high on my list.
When are we gonna get? And it's a Small World movie.
Probably at some point. I don't know what that's gonna be. Some kind of like Gremlins, like horror type deal.
Joe Dante's It's a Small World.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see that one though. And then Jurassic World, which we got a trailer for a couple months ago. What are you guys stoked for that?
Yep.
When I first saw that trailer, I was super stoked. But considering all the other kind of trailers for movies based on nostalgic properties that come out recently, that one's dropped to probably the bottom of my list as far as kind of those movies, like Mad Max and Jurassic or Terminator Genesis, that kind of stuff. But I'm still stoked for it. I'm looking forward. I love Jurassic Park.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for it. This one we haven't seen anything for, and it's supposed to come out in August. But Fantastic Four. Yeah, I'm just excited to see something. There's rumors going around that this movie is a total mess. And I would believe it because we haven't seen anything from it yet.
It's going to be the Amazing Spider-Man 2 of Fantastic Four.
But it's the guy who directed, what is the... Chronicle, yeah. And we haven't seen anything from him since Chronicle. So the fact that he moves from Chronicle to this is like, okay, what are we going to get,
Yeah.
And he loves superheroes, right? I mean, like from all like the videos and stuff you've seen. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. The next is the Pixar movie Inside Out. I don't know, like this Pixar's been on sort of a string of, I think, mediocre films. Inside Out looks like it could be a return to form, but it also could very easily just be like another. This sounds funny, but almost like a DreamWorks ripoff.
To be perfectly honest, I'm actually more interested in the Good Dinosaur than Inside Out. I don't know, just they're both interesting premises, but the Good Dinosaur is more interesting and sounds like more potentially fun premise to me.
Yeah, and those are both on our list. So Pixar has 2 movies coming out this year, The Good Dinosaur and Inside Out, and I think we're excited to see. I think we're interested to see both, hoping that that this sort of year off might be somewhat of a return to form. I loved Monsters University. I thought that was great, but I think they just haven't. I think reached the same heights that we've expected from Pixar.
I think what gives Inside Out the leg up, hopefully, is that Pete Docter's doing it. Pete Docter did Monsters Inc. and Up, which are two of my favorite Pixar movies, and Up is, I think everyone can kind of agree is one of their best ones. So, hoping they can pull it off.
Yeah. This next one is kind of an anomaly to me, but it's the Pixels, which is about aliens attacking the Earth with like 80s retro video game not even villains, but just video game characters. So like a giant Pac-Man or something like that. And it's with Adam Sandler, which makes me wary. But who else is in it, guys? I can't remember right now.
Peter Dinklage, which is really the only reason I'm excited for it.
It's just like
Adam Sandler.
Yeah, from the posters and what the little we've seen, it looks like it's going to be nuts. But maybe if we're lucky, it'll be a good kind of nuts.
Space invaders.
Yeah. All right. Our list is so ridiculous. The next one is Sinister 2, which we haven't seen anything from, but we all liked Sinister 1, so we're excited for Sinister 2. Probably until we see something from it and we realize that it's not going to... I feel like it's not going to be the same kind of thing. I feel like it's just going to be a garbage horror movie. Yeah, exactly. But we'll see. We're excited for that one. Does anyone want to talk about this next one?
Crimson Peak, which was not my radar whatsoever. I didn't even know that was coming out.
Really, Joe? I figured you would have been stoked for this.
Well, I will be.
Crimson Peak.
There's so much going on this year, guys. I can't keep track of everything.
Crimson Peak is like a horror / romance. It's up in the air as to which it's going to be more of. From Guillermo del Toro. And from what
I did hear about this.
Yeah, from what we have seen of it, or at least what I've seen of it, it looks like it might be somewhat of a return to Pan's Labyrinth-esque detail and fantasy kind of dealings, but it's a horror film. So I'm really excited. If you look up some of the art, the art and set design of it, it looks awesome.
Whoa.
So
I came back. We just lost you for 30 seconds.
Oh, sorry. That's weird. Well, anyway, I got what I was saying because I'm recording this on my computer. But
all right.
Basically, Crimson Peak just looks incredibly artistically detailed. And I'm excited to see Guillermo del Toro do something like that as opposed to doing Pacific Rim 2 right now. So I'm stoked to see it. What do you guys think?
Yeah, sounds good to me. I'm in.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I hope. I've heard he said it's his Spanish language films, but in English. Because it's really interesting if you look at his filmography. His English language movies are a lot different from his Spanish language movies. So it'll be interesting to see a movie that's maybe a better, kind of combination of the two. So I'm very intrigued by it.
Yeah, and it's with Tom Hiddleston, so all you fangirls out there should be excited for it. And Mia Wasikowska, who's pretty awesome too. But anyway, the next one is kind of a joke. I'm excited to just see a trailer for this because I think it's going to be ridiculous. But Gem and the Holograms. I seriously will probably not see this, but it's directed by John M. Chu, who's directed 2 of the Step Up movies, a Justin Bieber movie, G.I. Joe Retaliation, and is directing the next Now You See Me movie. Talk about a weird filmography, guys.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I don't know. We'll see. I just want to see a trailer for it. The next one I really am excited for, which is Mission Impossible 5. I think we all liked
I love this movie. What?
They're great. Yeah. The third one is better than the second one, despite what Joe will tell you. We're all excited for that, right?
Oh, of course.
Yeah. Well, I think I think we're excited because Mission Impossible 4 was really great. But it's interesting because all the Mission Impossible movies are very different because each one has a very different director and a very different, team of writers and whatnot. And so, nothing's been released of this one yet. So I hope it's good,
Yeah.
Mostly because I love Mission Impossible 4.
Well, there's Tom Cruise scaling the outside of a plane.
Yeah. Yep.
So that'll be interesting. Joe, you want to talk about the next one?
Terminator Genesis, gladly. I'm actually really looking forward to this movie, despite all the people who are worried because of everything that we've seen that says it might be pretty terrible, which I'll grant. We've seen some pretty terrible marketing for this movie so far. The new trailer intrigued me. I don't know. I'm just really interested in the fact that they're going back to the first movie and changing the timeline. Where I'm like, if you're going to try to reboot, I guess, the Terminator franchise, that's an interesting way to do it. It's a very, Back to the Future / Star Trek-y way of doing it. So I don't know. I'm intrigued. I think the effects are going to get better with the final product, but the movie looks like it could be a lot of fun. I love the Terminator films, just kind of as a franchise in general.
Yeah, I actually liked Terminator Salvation a lot more than most people. But
yeah, same here.
I will totally watch it. To me, this is probably not a good comparison, but this is probably like the RoboCop of last year to me. Like, I was kind of interested in seeing RoboCop, and I'm kind of interested in seeing Terminator Genesis. So we'll see how it turns out.
Yeah, I have no interest in this. So.
He has no horse in this fight, or whatever.
Nick, you want to talk about the next one?
Sure. It's the new James Bond movie.
Are you sure? Are you sure? You sound not sure.
No, I mean, I'm excited for this one. Although not as excited as a lot of other people. Like, I love the James Bond movies, but I'm nowhere as big a fan as some people I know. But I'm interested to see where this one goes, just because the Skyfall kind of ended. It kind of ended in a way that was like, oh, we're going to go back to what everyone loves about James Bond. So it'll be interesting to see this one. How far they're actually going to go back to the old James Bond, especially because now they have the rights to Spectre back. So there's no quantum organization. It'll probably just be good old Spectre. So
we should have Brian on if we review that one this year.
We should,
yeah.
Anyway, The Good Dinosaur, we already talked about a little bit. The next big one that I think we're all fans of, and I think we're all excited to see the finale in some regard, is Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2. Mockingjay Part 1 was a little underwhelming for most of us, I think, right, guys?
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. It was fine. I'm looking forward to Part 2.
Yeah, Part 2 is going to be, the shit show, so to speak. So I'm really interested to see what they do. A lot of people hate the last book and hate the way it ends, so I'm just interested to see how they try and deal with people who are really big fans of the series who hate the last book. I'm curious. I love the last book, but we'll see. All right, Nick, you want to talk about the next one?
Yeah, the next one is Quentin Tarantino's new movie, The Hateful Eight. I'm really excited about this because it seems like it's a step in his career that I wasn't expecting. He's kind of been doing a lot of genre jumping recently. Like he did Kill Bill with Samurai, and then World War II with Inglourious Basterds, and then Western with Django Unchained. And so it's interesting to see him go back to the Western genre again, but kind of do it closer to what Reservoir Dogs as opposed to an expansive, big Western like Django Unchained was. So this is one where, I'm just excited to see what he does differently this time around, and the cast is great. I mean, I love Kurt Russell. Channing Tatum's in this. So there's a lot of people in it that I'm really interested to see him collaborate with again and collaborate with for the first time.
Nice. Cool. You want to take the next one too?
Yeah, sure. So the next one is Martin Scorsese's new film, Silence, which is based on a book that I've actually read, which I'm very proud of.
You read a book?
I know. But it's about Jesuit missionaries in 18th century Japan, I believe, and it's just one of those subject matters that I think Scorsese is perfect for. He's one of the few that kind of can handle these matters with the intelligence and reverence it deserves, and it's also been a movie that he's been trying to get made for, like 10, 15 years. So to finally see him finish it, and finally, get it out there is an exciting prospect.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it. I love Scorsese's work, so I'm excited to see pretty much anything by him. So, Joe, you want to talk about the next one?
Mad Max Fury Road. Huge fan of the Mad Max franchise again. We're getting a lot of movies based on just kind of these older properties, but just watch the trailer. This is probably my most rewatched trailer of any movie coming out this year. It's just so much fun. I'm just looking forward to just batshit crazy car chase.
Yeah,
basically in the Mad Max world.
The phrase "batshit" is the most accurate way to describe it.
there's no other way to describe this movie. It looks amazing. It looks like the sort of Mad Max film that we haven't quite seen something that's gone this far yet. I mean, like even with the Road Warrior, I don't think from all accounts of the trailer, but it's exactly what you expect from a Mad Max.
Yeah. I have no idea what the next movie on this list is. I don't know if that's a real movie or not. So
no, that's but it's supposed to be. That's what I'm talking about, which is the new Richard Linklater movie.
Oh, got it.
So for me, anything like the last couple of movies that Linklater's done, I think it's like Bernie, Before Midnight, and Boyhood. So really anything after that, I would have been excited for. But this is supposed to be like a spiritual sequel to Dazed and Confused. Obviously not the same characters, but it's instead of high school students in the 70s, it follows college students in the 80s. So I'm really interested to see just kind of what he does with that.
Yeah.
All right, the next one on our list is Ant-Man, and I think we're all like kind of tentatively excited about that. We just want to see how it ends up.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm really curious about this movie. I'm still super psyched just because I think it has potential to be the fun comedy that we're all expecting, but we'll see.
The next one is Krampus. Which I have no idea what this movie's going to be like. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a horror movie, but I'm just excited to see a movie about Krampus.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, Krampus is like the Eastern European tradition of like if Santa doesn't come to give you gifts, Krampus comes to like devour you. So
I already got that though. That was Rare Exports.
Yeah, but Rare Exports is stupid. I'm curious to see how this movie ends up. Nick, you should talk about the next one.
Jane Got a Gun. This is a movie I've been looking forward to for a long time because I love westerns. But also it seems like a different kind of western than what we've gotten recently. But it's kind of gone through a lot of production troubles. The original director, who I think it was Lynn Ramsey, who did We Need to Talk About Kevin, was originally supposed to direct it, and then like the day before they were going to start, she dropped out, and she got replaced by Gavin O'Connor, who directed Miracle and Warrior. So for a lot of people, that's a step down, but I actually really like Gavin O'Connor's movies, especially those two that I mentioned. So I'm hoping it turns out okay. But I have no idea. This was actually on my most anticipated list, mostly because of the people involved, and so I just hope that the production problems, don't hurt the movie in any way.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited to see this one too. I mean, with Natalie Portman starring and it being a western, I think I don't know. I think it'll just be interesting to watch, even if it's not that great. But and with all the production troubles, it seems like it could possibly not be that great. But we'll see. I have no clue what most of the next ones are, so someone else needs to talk about them.
999. It's really brief. It's the new John Hillcoat movie. John Hillcoat did The Proposition. He did Lawless, and he did The Road.
Oh shoot! I should know what this movie is.
Yes. So even though his movies can be really depressing, and this one sounds like it could be maybe not that different, but basically it involves a bunch of cops who get blackmailed, I think, into performing a heist. And one of the parts of the heist that they have to perform is they have to kill one of their fellow officers, and I think 999 is the code for an officer down. And so it's got a great cast. I think it's like, oh gosh, I'll have to look it up, but it's like, I know Aaron Paul's in it. There are a ton of people in it. Norman Reedus from The Walking Dead, Kate Winslet, Woody Harrelson, Casey Affleck, Anthony Mackie, Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
dang.
it's got a great cast.
That's See, I'm surprised I haven't even heard of this until just now, and I love Lawless. That was my favorite movie from a couple years ago, and I haven't seen The Proposition, but I also dig The Road a lot, so I should check this out. All right, Nick, you want to talk about the next ones too?
Our last one, I'm really excited about, and I'm actually really disappointed because it was supposed to come out in March, but just got pushed back to December, which could be really good.
So is it going to come out in 2015?
Well, yeah, but it's In the Heart of the Sea, which is Ron Howard's new movie, and it's based on the story that inspired Moby Dick. And I kind of love those people at sea movies, people getting stranded, all that kind of stuff. I love survival stories, so I'm really excited for that, and especially because it's Ron Howard working with Chris Hemsworth again after Rush and working with the same cinematographer as Rush, so it looks like a movie that Ron Howard wouldn't normally direct, which I kind of like that, he's mixing things up. Ron Howard is a director anyway, kind of is all over the place. It's kind of weird to think that the guy who directed The Grinch directed A Beautiful Mind and Apollo 13 and, Willow, and so it's just kind of interesting to see him do another kind of unexpected move.
But moving the movie from when was it March to December, to me seems like a move that means they think it might have some like sort of awards potential.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
Yeah. So I don't think it's I don't think it's like a bad move. Moving from December to March would be I think a worse move. But all right, and the last one is that?
No, that's not.
Okay.
Just ignore that.
I don't get the joke, guys. All right, so that's
okay.
That's pretty much it for our list of most anticipated this year, and I think that's going to wrap up the podcast for this week. I think the next time we get on, we're probably going to be talking about either Oscar nominations or some movie that's come out. Yeah, exactly. But it'll probably be.
Wasn't that our first episode? Was about talking about the Oscar nominations from last year?
We're pretty much a year old, guys.
Damn.
I know. That's pretty exciting. So yeah. Anyway, check us out. Check out our website, or just check us out. Wink. I'm winking right now.
Check me out.
You can
I'll be checking us out.
Can find more episodes of Outside the Letterbox on our website, the-letterbox.com, as well as on iTunes. You can also find mine and Nick's top 10s, Joe's top 10s in video form, as well as his worst movies, which is just a load of crap.
It's a bullshit list to Paul.
But you can leave us a review on iTunes or comment on our site. Seriously, share our site and our podcast with other people who you think might be interested in. And we love to hear from you. If you disagree with anything or we left anything out, just comment or shoot us a Facebook message or something. Comment on Facebook, whatever. But anyway, yeah, we'll see you guys soon.